And it was a ad hoc kind of meeting. It's not our typical meeting because of the budget and when it came out and the timing of finishing, completing it and getting it submitted. So we just said we're going to put a meeting on the calendar. Okay. Hi, Hannah. No?
No, Carrie's flashing that puppy.
Oh. Oh. Carrie and her family foster dogs. They have their own dog and they foster. So it's so fun. And she'll send us pictures of them as well.
And I'm trying to, I have 6 right now, so I'm trying to find homes. So, I mean, who can say no to this?
I know. Carrie, don't. I have 2 already. That's just tempting me. What kind are they, Carrie?
Well, he looks to me like a Rottweiler.
Yeah, big yawn.
You know, like part Rottweiler, like Big Dog Carl.
Yeah.
Or Big Dog Carl. So this is Carl.
Okay.
He's very.
Look at those paws.
I know. I think he's going to be big.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll get the word out. I'll get the word out too.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get started because it's 5 after, and you all have dinner to make with family. And okay, so a typical year, I would be in front of you, and I would have charts and put things up on the Promethean board with the numbers and whatever. This format just doesn't lend itself to it. Number 1. And number 2, our budget looks a lot different this year because of the loss of our middle school, as well as in addition to some special ed programming. So I want to start with, and you know what, if you have questions, just unmute and ask your question or type it in the chat and I'll get to it. So all school budgets are built on enrollment. The number of students who come through your door, everybody brings money, okay? And then depending upon your free and reduced lunch rate for students, that brings extra money. And that comes in the form of funds called compensatory funds, as well as Title I funds. And Seward, since I've been there, and this will be my 12th year, Seward has always been situated between about 50% and 55% free and reduced lunch, which sets us up pretty well for, you know, some of that additional funding that maybe schools like in Armitage don't get. So we typically are fortunate enough to maintain or sometimes add. We have had budget cuts. I can't remember how many years ago now it was, maybe 3 years, when everybody was cutting. When everybody else was cutting, so were we, in other words. But like I said, typically we're okay. This past school year, we were funded for 821 pre-K through 8th grade students. This year, or this coming up year, we are budgeted for 718 students. So right away, you see a reduction of about 100 kids. So that's a reduced amount of money right there, which makes sense. They are projecting about a little over 500 students remaining at Seward. Our current students in our E1 or elementary program will probably stay, is what they're saying. And then we'll add about 200 to 220 new to Seward students from all around the city, because we are the Montessori magnet. So students can come from any part of the city, get transportation, and come to Seward. And they're thinking about, like I said, 200 to 220 kids coming in new to us. All right, which brings me to, so this doesn't have a lot to do with budget, but since we're talking about new to Seward families, we will do a huge welcome to Seward effort this spring. And depending upon what COVID is like and what's going on, will depend upon how we welcome families and their students. But just know we're talking about that as a staff, and we'll partner with families to get the word out and welcome new families, kind of give them the lay of the land, so to speak, and some of our big picture hopes and dreams for next year as a learning community. Okay, so with that, our budget is down slightly, not enough to have a ton of impact, but some impact. So our budget was about $6.6 million. Most of that money goes to paying staff, just right off the top. So we are funded 28 classroom teachers pre-K through fifth grade. And what that looks like for next year is 5 children's house classrooms. We currently have 4, so we're adding a kindergarten. That looks like 15 E1 classrooms. Currently we have 11 E1 classrooms. We're adding 4 first, second, and third grade classes. And then 2 additional E2 classes. So we currently sit with 6 E2 classes. We add 2 to make 8. So funding wise, like I said, the first thing that happens is we pay the teachers. The way this works in Minneapolis, and I'm not sure how, I know a little bit about how other districts do it, but Minneapolis just gives us salary averages for every position. It's not like an exact amount, but it's an average. So I take whatever, and it varies year to year what the salary average is. So I take that, multiply it by 28, then I look at funds, start subtracting out. After we pay teachers, we also have a predictable staffing model that Superintendent Graff brought in, and actually, to be honest, the district had talked about for years, that says every school has to have a secretary, no matter what. Every school has to, I mean, it's things like you would expect, right? You'd expect to walk in a school and have a secretary. Every school has to have a school nurse or a health assistant, depending on. And quite frankly, and I'm sure, Megan, you can speak to this, sometimes in the Southwest corner, or depending upon how you're funded, this gets really tricky for people. But anyway, so we have this predictable staffing model. So we kind of look to see what we have to have. And I'll give you another example. So for every, I'm not going to remember the number because I didn't look it up this year, but let's just say 700 because that seems about right. For every 700 students, you have to have a full-time social worker. If you're under 700, say you're 400, that might be a made up number, but then you might only have to have an 8/10 social worker or a 6/10 social worker. So anyway, these are predictable staffing things that have to happen, so we fund those. And then with whatever's left, we think about and talk about our school improvement plan, goals for our school, needs that have come up over the year. And I do a survey with the staff and ask them, and I haven't in the past done anything very formal with parents, but what I've usually done, and what I did again this year, was kind of listened to parents at our parent meetings, a lot of times at events that we didn't have this year, but parent comments, questions, phone calls about kind of what they see the needs are in the community. And then we kind of meld those together in our instructional leadership team, at site council, at PTA, and kind of talk about kind of what I've heard. Is this what I'm hearing? And then we use that, it's somewhat discretionary money to move forward with and spend the rest down. So with that said, this is kind of where we've landed. And again, if any staff are on and you want to participate or add anything, just interject, or if anybody has questions, just let me know. So changes as of right now, we're closing our middle school program. And I'm not gonna lie, that's been hard. I can't believe I was having to do that, but we know we're moving forward, and and I'm excited. I think our kids are talking about where they're going next year, so and I'm excited for our teachers to have a new experience. Whoever gets them, they're going to be really lucky. Due to our numbers, we had a reduction in our allocation from the district for our ELL teachers, our English as a second language or English language learner teachers. In the past, they've funded 5. And then I've bought, with our budget, more time. We have a dynamite English learner department, and it's always where they get great results with our kids. But anyway, because of numbers and yeah, anyway, we lost one, a 1.0 teacher, and we'll keep 4. And I'm going to add to that in a minute. And then we also had a reduction in a special ed resource person. It's an SEA, so to speak. Sarah, what's the special something resource?
Special ed resource teacher?
Nope.
For a cert?
Nope, a Siri.
Oh, Siri. Specifically, it's I always forget what the acronym stands for.
SEA,
it's basically social emotional support for special education kids who are in a gen ed setting. So if a student has an IEP, receives some level of special education service, this person can go in and help them to kind of get situated and get started in their general education room, and then pull out and then leave and go help another kid get situated in their room with a transition period or something. It's not that they're assigned to that student one-to-one, but they kind of float amongst all the different classrooms.
Right, and provide that support. And that's really important to note. It is not a one-to-one. So in the past 2 or 3 years, the district has allocated 2 of those positions. We started out with 1, they've allocated 2, they removed 1. And that's a 30-hour AE position. And then the other change we're going to make next year is because we have so many more classrooms and elementary kids for specialists and prep time, we're going to make media, which has been a collaborative model, we're going to make media a regular prep. So all kids will get media and technology experience, and that they always got book checkout, but we'll just incorporate that. So all of our kids will get media every week. So we're pretty excited about that.
Can I ask a quick question, Tammy, or should I hold it?
Nope, ask away.
Okay, am I right that there will be more kids though needing special ed services at Seward under, like, isn't that part of the CDD, more special ed programs?
I'll get to that.
Okay.
Hannah, I'll get to that.
Okay, and then can I ask one more question?
Yep.
Is this more new enrollment than was projected? Yeah, for Seward, like bigger?
Yeah, you know what? I think that originally the district was hoping that we would have an enrollment around 600 to 600 plus. So we kind of exceeded that. And I'm super excited about it, right? I mean, we definitely want to grow our program to over 800 again. So we are well on our way. So we're off to a really good start. I'm really excited.
Okay.
So, yep, I'm getting to the special ed part. So I talked about the additional teachers that the district funded. They also funded, because we are the only Montessori program now in the district, for Montessori materials and Montessori professional development. They have done that in the past. However, we got more. Okay, and we feel really fortunate and very excited. I was talking with Ayana today. Ayana is our Montessori coordinator. For those of you who haven't seen her or met her, we were lucky enough to hire her this year full time. She's dynamite. She's working really hard on ordering materials and getting things up and running and getting everyone really excited to kick this off this summer. So the district pays for her, and then funds like we've never seen before. Like, I've been in this district for 35 years, mostly in Montessori schools, most in Montessori classrooms. I've never seen this kind of money come and be supportive of a program like this. So I'm really excited about that. And then they are putting special education programs in our school. Right now, Seward is one of the only or one of the few schools to not have any special education programming. We have special education students who are served through resource and are mostly in general education setting, so to speak. But we haven't had an autism program or EBD program or a what, just a variety of the programs. But next year we're going to, and we're getting 2 EBD programs. And I just think the connotation of that is super kind of negative. So I'm trying to figure out, we're going to have to call it something else. So these are students who struggle with some emotional and behavior disorders. I've worked in lots of schools with EBD programs. They go really well. It's really actually fun. I'm super excited to welcome the staff and students to our school. It'll be a new program. So it isn't a program leaving another school intact to come to our program. It's new. So, and what that looks like is it'll be 2 separate classrooms, 1 primary, think like little people, 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade, and then 1 more intermediate, like 4th and 5th grade. And so they'll each have a teacher and then 2 associate educators per classroom. And then some additional social work time comes with that as well. So we have a full-time social worker, and Sarah's on with us now. And then we get 4/10 additional social work time. And this person will there's Sarah, yep. And then mostly, and that person will work with our students and our families and us and network, and it'll be a great relationship, I'm sure. And our goal always is to mainstream kids as much as possible and get them in the general ed setting. And that's what our aim will be with this program too. We'll work very closely. There'll be Seward Sharks. It's going to be great. I totally want an inclusive program. I've seen it done multiple times. And it's super successful all the way around. It's good for everyone. So that's the funding and the additional program that's coming our way. Okay. And then the other difference in addition for us is band. We've always had a band program that we've funded through our budget. The district philosophically now is saying they want every 5th grade student to have an opportunity to play an instrument. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a band instrument, as we're finding out, but and this is new. So this is a program in the works and developing. But so the district is paying for a 0.5 band teacher at Seward, and we are lucky enough to get to keep Mike. Mike does a really, really great job. It's been fun. I always love hearing the band from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. I'm super sad that was taken from us this year, but he'll be back next year working with our kids. He'll also be able to work with 4th graders. So we will be doing a big push with 5th grade families to say, hey, you want to try a band instrument? We're going to add strings. He'd like to offer some stringed instruments, and then there'll be ukuleles. Yep, ukuleles at Seward. Can't wait. And then we have Kirsten, our music teacher, who also likes to teach the kids guitar. So, we know that music impacts academics, and all of these opportunities are just going to be really great for our kids. So I'm super excited about this. So that again was given to us. So with the leftover money after paying all the teachers and the staff, so lots of things stay the same, and we try not to make budget cuts that impact the classroom. And I'm really happy to say we didn't make any budget cuts impacting the classroom. So when you think about our staff and our amazing associate educators, that stays. All that support absolutely stays. And then in addition, we did buy an additional 0.5 ELL teacher. And I think that speaks to our values. We want our students who are learning English as a 3rd language, 4th, 5th language, 2nd, the team, like I said, does such a great job, and we value that. So we bought that up. The other thing that we paid for extra, was a special education teacher. And I mean this in the resource way, like our general ed kind of way. And we were allocated 2. And I've typically bought this up to full-time, but we could only buy up to 0.5 next year. but I think the team, we agree it's the right thing to do. I'm not sure if you know this, but because of federal law, if we only stayed at 2 teachers and our caseload got higher, and we know that we are doing a lot more special ed assessments coming on now. We're behind, quite honestly, just because of the pandemic. The kids haven't been in school to test. So we have a lot of schools to test. If caseloads get too high for those 2, we are mandated to buy another teacher. And I don't want to get down a road where we've spent all our money and then they come to me and say, you need to buy a teacher, and I don't have the money. So it's just better to be proactive and do this now. And I'm very confident that we'll be well within our range. And I'm also, again, speaks to our values about how we care for and help our kids who are slower to learn or are having difficulty learning. It's just really important that we do everything we can to support these kids. And again, we have a really good team in place. So one thing that we're going to do that is different is we're going to keep a counselor. We're going to have an elementary counselor as opposed to a middle school counselor. And that's something that I heard from all of you, as well as our staff. If you were on earlier, we were talking about how this pandemic has really somewhat been balanced on the backs of our young people, 5-year-old through college. And that our kids have sacrificed a great deal of their social emotional experience, their learning experience, actually just their human experience, right? And then in addition, the murder of George Floyd and the impact on our immediate community, and knowing, that trial is coming up again, as well as just all of our work with equity and getting kids college and career ready. We again want to live our values and put our money right where we talk about what we value at our school. So we're lucky enough that Kaisa wants to stay on, not move on to a middle school. And again, we have a really good team of people supporting her. So she'll work with Sarah, she'll work with Leanne, our school psychologist, me, Claire, and we're going to work really hard to help our kids learn some either coping skills, self-care strategies, and like I said, anything to do with equity and academics. It's going to be a big job. We'll start planning out the programming coming up very soon, so we're ready to hit the ground running in the fall. The other thing that we'll buy up a little bit is a literacy coach, which this has been standard practice probably for, I don't know, the last 6 years. The district funds part of it and we buy that up. And what our coach helps us with is along our school improvement plan goals around our writing and reading and literacy. And this person, it's Julie Lilly, many of you know Julie, she coaches the teachers. She helps observe, organizes things, helps, gives them strategies and feedback. And like I said, literally coaches them and helping with, like I said, anything to do with literacy, anything they want. We do have a new reading curriculum benchmark. This is our 3rd year with it. So some of her time has been spent on some of the components of that, but also she's just equally supported Montessori literature circles and literacy kinds of things as well. So we buy that up. And then the last thing that we paid for were our 2 reading intervention teachers who are Kelly and Kia right now. And again, kind of living our values and making sure our kids are learning to read. And they offer those tier 2 and tier 3 interventions that that teachers don't typically provide in their classroom. Teachers do some of that. They mostly do tier 1 and some tier 2. And then, like I said, Kelly and Kia come in and help kind of diagnose if kids are struggling when they're learning to read. What stays the same? Like I said, AEs to support the classroom, our differentiation specialist who works with our teachers, again, coaching, and our kids who have been identified as advanced learners, that stays the same. our nurse, our health service assistant, school psychologist, school social worker. All of our specialists are back as is. And like I said, with the addition of media as a regular prep. What am I missing? Trying to think. Am I missing something?
Maybe Carrie. Are we missing Carrie?
Oh yeah, Carrie's back. Family liaisons back. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, we're good. I feel really good about this budget. I think the teachers feel good about it. I hope you do. Do you have any questions, comments, concerns? Somali liaisons back.
Hi, Tammy. This is Jess. I'm sorry, I have some cooking sausages. It's a little bit loud. Couple questions, and sorry if you said this earlier. So, do you know the numbers of kids who actually like elected for Seward in the February? Like, is that what the number projections are based on? Is the number of kids who actually elected to come to Seward?
Yes.
So that was like 200 new.
Yep, about 200. Yep.
Okay, thanks. And then, so there'll be a new children's house class, and they all have their own like separate AE. That's the model that you guys
Yep.
use.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep. That stays with Children's House. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Tammy, do you know, is that a set number now, or is there, because I know they're doing a second lottery?
I know, I was just going to speak to that. So they are going to do a second lottery. Is that in April, Carrie? Yeah, the district is going to be looking at a second lottery just to make sure that that everybody's kind of settled, you know, because this is so different, as you can imagine, no one knows what to expect, right? And I think they're trying to do as much as they can on the beforehand, before we get to August and September, just to make sure things are as concrete as possible. Yes, this is, I mean, they're not going to take things away from us, right? Because we're spending all this money. Like there's not going to be anything left for them to take, right? And so and I will say this, I want to be really honest with you about this. One thing that I have heard the district say is they are going to keep some money back. Usually they try to just get all the money out to the schools as much as possible. But they're going to hold some money back because we aren't sure what to expect in the fall. So, and I think it's actually a good plan because, you know, say we get another 30 kids, right? I'm going to need a teacher, or another school gets another 30 kids or whatever. We need to be able to go to the district and say, help us, we need some money. So I want to just put that out there. That's not typical. The district's usually pretty good about getting all the money out. But I do think it's a good idea because this is a whole new experience. But I don't anticipate a lot of changes based on that April lottery. I'd be surprised. I've been surprised before though by the district, but I would be surprised only because they are definitely trying to get this right, especially for the magnet schools, and get the funding right. I think a lot of this is about the community schools. I'll do a bunch of info meetings about the budget throughout the spring and in the fall. I can review this anytime. And it's, you know, it's so much easier when you're in front of us, right? When we're having our typical meeting and we can talk. But the budget is public information. There's nothing to hide about it or anything. So Lisa, I'm happy to just keep sharing this information with people. Yeah, and we can do it in Somali with one of our Somali, our bilingual support staff can help us out with it for sure.
Tammy, are you anticipating that we will get Title I again?
Yes, we got Title I monies.
Oh, okay.
And what we use that for, there was a decrease in the amount, and then like a significant decrease in the amount for family involvement. But so the family involvement money, I think, is in like around $4,800. And I think last year it was in the, like, I want to say it was like $18,000. So it was, like I said, significant. But what I used that for last year, I took some of that money and helped pay for family liaison. And then the rest of it goes to our events to help support events. It goes to taxi cabs and rides for families who don't have transportation, right? So it's okay. We'll just keep that $4,800 and do the same thing. It'll help us with some of the events and also help us with transportation or anything our families might need.
Does that reduction reflect a reduction of the number of students who qualified, like who push it, or it's just like an arbitrary, like they split it up different?
Yeah, I think they might have split it up different, Hannah, but I will say this, our compensatory money and our Title I money is always dependent on the number of free and reduced lunch applications we get, whether people qualify or not. And that's why we're constantly calling you, and you all say to me, I don't qualify. I'm like, I don't care. You have to submit it no matter what. And I don't know what the formula is for that. And I know that Hillary like did a deep dive on that one time and explained it at a PTA meeting. But I will say our return rate was lower this year just because of the circumstances, right? And we did an all-out effort. I mean, at the end, people were like driving to school, dropping them off, right? But it's been a lot with the pandemic, and it's just one more thing to add to parents' plates. And everybody did the best they could, but we definitely saw a reduction. But I also have to tell you, Title I funds, how do I say this? Like, it's just different every year, depending, and it's also different. Sometimes the district adjusts its cutoff rate. So sometimes they say, schools with 40% free and reduced lunch, blah, 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 get this much. And sometimes they say, you got to go to 50%. And so it depends. Okay.
Okay.
I was going to say something else about that money. Oh, and then the other thing we have bought out of Title I the last forever years are our 2 reading interventionists and our literacy coach, because with every fund come parameters. Like, I can't buy certain things out of certain funds. And Title I is super fussy, super, super fussy. There are just a lot of hoops to jump through for $300,000. So, yeah, it has to be documented. I have to fill out like a 3-page form about it. So anyway, does that help? Does that make sense? And that's like every fund. Every fund says, okay, you can only get this out of this. And some funds are just teachers. You can't buy anything else. You can't get an AE out of it. You can't get anything else. It's fun. I like to do the budget. It's always a puzzle about how
Tammy,
to. Yeah.
is there any potential for getting extra money with this possible federal stimulus package?
Yes. There's
And
always.
what would you use that for?
Well, I think, so a couple things. One, I think we could use some more AEs just because we have more classes. And we're maintaining, right? But we could use more. And then I think the other thing that I would do is sit down with all of you and the teachers and talk about, like, here, we've got this money. What do we think? The other thing, quite honestly, is it's important to have the kids in front of us and our community in front of us and say, okay, ooh, this is a need, right? I think as a school, and again, talking about our values, we have a lot of work to do around race and equity. And so does everybody else. That's not a knock on Seward. I mean, so any kind of efforts around that, I think would be something. But again, I'd like to see who's in front of us and I'd rather do some parent and staff input, depending upon the amount of money. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I mean, I would just encourage you to get input from the people who need it most and not the white folks who join the meetings.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And yeah, Lisa, I hear you. I think one thing that we have all struggled with. I'm not sure I understand. Oh, that's my watch talking to me. One thing I think we've all struggled with this year is just the lack of diversity at our parent meetings. And again, despite all of our best efforts, it has been really, really hard to connect, especially with our East African population in this format, okay? But the good news is, I can assure you, Claire and I were in the building almost every day and having really positive and amazing interactions with our families and getting input and talking to them about what they were thinking. And so, it's one way or another, it's just this format is just, and the time of day, right? Like balancing dinner and getting home from work. And it's hard for all families, but I think especially hard for our East African families. But you're right. So it's really important. I totally value what they bring to the table and their ideas. So any other questions?
Tammy, I thought of another couple.
Yeah.
Could you clarify about media? Does that mean it's not a specialist? It's like a separate thing? Or is it just a specialist that everybody gets all the time?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, our specialist classes offer a 55-minute prep to our teachers, right? That's like in their contract. And our specialist classes have been health, PE, music, art, science, and did I say music? And music. And what we were trying a different model with our media and doing a collaborative model. So it wasn't part of that rotation for a prep time. Okay, it was a book checkout time that was planned. But when we had Sarah and now we have Karen, it was if teachers were doing a theme or a unit or whatever, they would go to Sarah and say, okay, these are the standards I need to get across for language or social studies or science or whatever. Help me with the technology part and the media standards of that. And then they would collaborate and do some co-teaching. And that honestly, like it was a new model 4 years ago. So it was slow getting up and running, but it was getting stronger and stronger, right? But not every teacher took her up on that, which is something that we really wanted to see over time. So anyway, when we knew that we had these additional classrooms and we looked at the number of preps we needed to have, we did talk about language, but overwhelmingly, the teachers wanted media as a prep back. And I think, I think what we've learned through distance learning is the technology matters. That our kids need not a ton like we've been doing, right? We're Montessori first and foremost, and so we're not like super like we're going to be on the computer all the time, but there is value in making sure that our kids have those standards down, and as well as the media standards. And you know what? And I'm sure this is true at every school. Our kids love our media center. They love the books. They love going up there. They love the experiences. So we're going to now include media as part of our rotation in our schedule. So all kids will get it on a regular basis instead of the collaborative. Does that make sense? Does that help? Okay.
Yes. And just the very last thing I wanted to say, and I'm sure you and Christian and others in the PTA talk, but just any of those costs that you're having to take on differently this year, but like any other way we can help, I'm sure we're doing our best to fundraise for different things in this weird year, but like if there's any of those additional taxi cabs or, transportation pieces, just to throw that out there. I'm sure that you guys talk about those things, but I'm newer to the process. So
no, I think that is so true. And I just would have to say, and that's one of the things just I love about this parent community is that always willing to go above and beyond for the entire community, right? Your purview is huge and it's so inclusive. So thank you. I appreciate it. Anything else? All right, so if something comes up, or if you think of something or have a question, send me an email or stop by and talk to me from a distance or give me a phone call. Just thank you to everybody again for choosing Seward. And I'm looking forward to getting through this pandemic, getting back to some kind of normal. I will give you an update. We talked a little earlier. It is very nice to have kids back on campus. And again, that being said, I respect everyone's choice. If you chose to keep your kids home, I think that's the right decision for your family. I think we're hearing from more and more families who want to come back on campus. Just know that we're going to start a list about that and have kids come back fourth quarter. We're kind of at a breaking point about how we balance numbers and keep kids safe with the numbers who now want to come back. And it really does take a lot of time and planning to get people back. So, and we're super fortunate at Seward that we're still going to have teachers who are doing distance learning, and we have teachers who can come back. We've got space in our building and teachers who are able to come back. And so we'll be able to bring kids back and open up some other classrooms. So, but it is a huge undertaking. It's hard for me to explain what it's like. And then we will be welcoming middle school kids back as well, fourth quarter. So, and that's a lot because it's going to impact scheduling. And so we're working that out. And again, another thing that I just love about our school is just people are so proactive and such good problem solvers that we're like, okay, what about this? And then we problem solve it and whatever. But I am especially excited to welcome our middle school kids back because it's their last year with us. And I think it's such a pleasure and privilege to see kids from pre-kindergarten through 8th grade, watching kids go through all those different developmental stages, the bumps, but also just watching them all grow up. So I'm excited to open our doors to them and have them back again in fourth quarter. But so I hope you'll just understand we're trying to do right by you and all of our kids and our staff by keeping everyone safe. It just takes some time. Okay. All right. Hey, everyone. It's so gorgeous out. Every day is going to be, I know this weekend, I think I see 50s. We'll be in shorts and tank tops in no time. It's going to be great. I appreciate you. Like I said, if anything comes up, please don't hesitate to let me know. Okay. All right. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Everyone, thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night. Thank you, Carrie.
Tammy.
Thanks for organizing this. Appreciate you.